Destination Medicine is a collaborative initiative of regional training hubs. With first-hand lessons learnt from those who have gone before, this podcast is designed to assist and inspire anyone interested in pursuing a medical career in rural and regional Australia. Welcome to Destination Medicine. I'm Peter Letts. Persistence. It can be every bit as valuable as gold. And persistence and perseverance describe the rural medical journey of Dr. Emmy Hennell. Now that she owns and runs her own rural GP practice in tiny Tumby Bay on South Australia's Eyre Peninsula, Dr. Hennell is at a point in her career where she can sit back and take stock of her achievements and her journey from the big city. We'll hear more about that. But first, she starts by describing her early years and a pretty big family to Nicole Goodman.
So this was back in mid-80s. I just came straight out from a Catholic high school in Adelaide, South Australia. I'm 11th of 13 children.
Wow.
So I've got 6 brothers and 6 sisters, so it's all very neat. And my older sisters, 4 of them are nurses, were nurses at the time. And I was doing quite well at high school and quite enjoyed it and liked the sciences. So I just felt like, I think I could maybe give it a crack at doing medicine, perhaps, because I certainly liked that health industry. So I got into University of Adelaide and straight into doing a 6-year degree and lived at home with lots of older siblings there and, found it quite hard work and to pass the subjects. And I ended up failing my 3rd year. And really felt like this is all too hard. I think I'm going to quit. I think I'll go and do nursing and join the crew. And my wise mum at the time was a very busy mother of 13 and very dedicated to doing our best. She said, look, if you quit, you really have failed. Look, just repeat the year and then move on to nursing. That's probably the best way. So as a dutiful daughter, I thought I should do that and obviously passed 3rd year, and then I thought, well, I'll keep going. So certainly had a close call with failure there, but kept going on. But I was very fortunate to meet my future husband during that year. And so he was a postman at the time, and I had a part-time job in those days. At Christmas time, there was a lot of mail to deliver, and the posties needed help. So lots of Christmas cards and things, which has certainly changed now. So I sort of had a job to help deliver the mail. And so we actually got set up by the other posties and we were engaged about 10 weeks later. I think it was all very quick and it was meant to be. So we married at the beginning of my 4th year and definitely was very settled in that time and was able to just continue the course and managed very well. Yeah, so very fortunate to have the good support around me and also other students at the university. So exams were at the end of 6th year and we were expecting our first baby who was born in the January of 89, so just after 6th year. So a bit of an interesting start. Most people would go straight into their intern year because that's sort of when you really consolidate what you've learnt theoretically. But I'd had a year off looking after a newborn and did my intern year a year later in 1990 at Queen Elizabeth Hospital in western suburbs of Adelaide.
You actually haven't stopped. You went from high school into medical school and then you got married and had a child and then went back and, did your internship. Like, there's no gap year for you. There was no, kicking back and thinking, what am I going to do today?
Well, having a lovely little baby she was a beautiful, very easy to look after. It certainly felt like a holiday, that's for sure.
Wow.
So, yeah.
After everything you were doing, it probably did feel like a holiday.
The dean of the medical school was very supportive and was saying, yes, that's fine. You can take a gap year. That's fine. It's not a problem. I was feeling quite nervous if that was allowed to happen. And my husband then, he took a year off from being a postie in 1990 so I could do my internship. So we didn't have to stress about childcare, and you have to appreciate this is probably a generation ago, and it was definitely, and certainly in my family, it was very strong belief that mums look after the children. So it was a bit unusual for my husband to be the main carer. That was a bit of a new thing within our family and probably not as common in the general community either, but he did very well. And yeah, it was wonderful to have that and be able to be supported that way. So I did do that intern year, and then I continued working part-time after that. So he went back to work in 1991, and I just worked in the emergency department at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, and very part-time, very casual shifts. And we had 2 more children over the next couple of years, 2 more daughters, so Caroline, Alison and Julie now. And worked in a wonderful department, a great director of emergency medicine who was very supportive of my unusual work timetabling, I suppose, fitting in between breastfeeds and working on weekends and things like that. Probably helped the emergency department when they were at their busiest on the weekends and Saturday nights and things like that. I was able to be there. However, it was quite clear soon enough after about 3 years of this very part-time casual shifts that I really wasn't consolidating or improving on my skill and knowledge base. So, and you appreciate that, you know, you need that. It's fine to pass the exams, but you actually need to be working in whatever field you're in to really learn properly. And I think we know that in lots of different areas and all sorts of things, not just medicine. So in 1994, just coming back after the 3rd baby, I just thought, this isn't really going to work. And I really wasn't enjoying it enough and feeling confident enough to go, okay, I'm going to do this more and give up looking after 3 little girls. So it didn't feel like a hard decision at the time. It felt the right thing to do for our family and our circumstances. So that's when I just said, I think this isn't going to work anymore. So stopped there. And yeah, it felt the right thing to do. Looking back, you'd be going, why didn't we continue that Richard was the main parent, because he was doing, you know, he would have done a great job at it. I don't doubt that, but it was just a different era.
A different era, absolutely. So what did you do with all your medical stuff, for lack of a better term? What happened?
Yeah, so I was pretty sure that I wouldn't be going back to medicine. I was quite ruthless, I suppose, and got rid of the books, a microscope. We had half a skeleton that we had to buy to help with learning our anatomy. Kept my stethoscope because I was given that with my name engraved on it. But yeah, pretty much everything was moved along, and I focused on being a mum and enjoyed it. And by then our older daughters were starting to go to kindy and school and all that. And we had a son then. So we're getting towards the late or mid-90s. But in the meantime, my husband was saying, well, not sure if he's going to be posty the rest of his life. So he went back to uni and became a maths teacher in those 5-6 years while I was at home with the children. And so thanks to him and teaching, we were able to trial the rural lifestyle. So we had a year in 99 where he was a first-time teacher, and we moved to a town just outside Adelaide and tried that and thought, this is fun. So this is all before, not being involved with medicine at all or anything like that.
Where did you move to rurally, and what made it so fun?
So Kapunda, which is about an hour and a half north of Adelaide, near the Barossa Valley, so a lovely area. And just really realised that the rural community in a small town is so special. I mean, you do need to get involved, but if you get involved, you get so much reward for that. And so it was easy to be involved. He was a teacher. We had children at the kindy and at the school and sport. So, you get thrown into it. If you want your children to have those opportunities, you get involved. And also our, the local church as well, we joined. So things like that gave us lots of opportunities to network and meet new families. And yeah, you just felt so quickly connected. And also because we didn't have family there. I mean, they weren't far away in Adelaide, but they were definitely, you felt like you developed your own extended family networks within the community that you lived in. So yeah, and that was like, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
And then within a year, Richard got permanent maths teaching in Tumby Bay in the west coast of South Australia on the Eyre Peninsula. And that's where we've lived ever since. So we've lived there in 2000, yeah.
So you basically went from the big smoke in Adelaide to Tumby Bay, what's the population there?
About 1,500 people.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
So a bit of a difference.
Wow.
Beachside community, very nice. It's just a long drive to Adelaide. It's a 600k drive.
Yeah. And you never longed to go back to metro lifestyle?
No, and I tell you what, I've learnt I'm not a very good at waiting. So coming back to Adelaide and waiting for things in queues is where you don't have that. It might take you a long time to get somewhere, but at least you're doing it. You're not waiting for something. But it certainly suited living in a small community where you've got less choices, which means less angst as well about what shop you shop in and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. So let's just sum up. Early 2000s, you were a busy mum of 8. Fast forward to 2024, and now you're a registered GP owning a medical practice in Tumby Bay. There's a few big steps that we've kind of glossed over. What's gone on in that time?
Yes. Yeah, you sort of think, how did that work? Well, I don't know either. Our youngest, Daniel, was born, so 8 children. So quite a long span of about 20 years from the oldest to the youngest. And then he was getting into kindy age in 2012, and I thought, okay, I'm 48 now. I don't think there's going to be any more babies. What am I going to do with the rest of my working life and to keep busy? So I thought for a while maybe I'll just get a diploma and then become a science teacher at the same school where our children went and my husband taught. Thought, well, that would be very good work-life balance. We're all getting holidays at the same time. But I met an older mum also, Judith, and she was a South African doctor and she'd been recruited with her husband at the time to work at Tumby Bay. And I met through playgroup. Even though I had a medical background, that word had got out, but it was definitely made quite clear that that doesn't mean anything, all right? And so even the local doctors in the town were told, though, there's no way that I would be doing medicine. I haven't even worked as a GP, let alone a rural GP. But she, in her softly way, she said, no, I think you could do this. You could get back into medicine. Why do teaching? You could do medicine and you can make it whatever you want. And I thought, really? And it's interesting when somebody says, oh, you could do this. If you get that encouragement and it just gives you the confidence to sort of go, well, maybe I can. And it sounds crazy, but maybe I can.
Well, yeah. So how were you able to reestablish yourself as a doctor? What was that process like?
First of all, with lots and lots of help and lots of people opening doors. And probably the major one was Judith to start the ball rolling, and then the only medical practice in the town who was owned by 2 GPs working for 30-odd years, Dennis and Graham, and they were very happy to have me there to do whatever I needed to do to get into retraining. So it was quite interesting how that worked because I was quite familiar with what the nurses had to do through my sister's journeys. If they left to have their children and had many years off, they said, we have to do volunteer work, we have to do a course. It was all very much a lot of effort and a lot of expense to get back into the circle of doing nursing. And I thought, well, where do I start with this? And I found out that you couldn't do it the same way. You cannot just, I'll volunteer to be a doctor. I'll just be a volunteer medical student sitting in the background. You needed to have a job to be able to retrain. And I was like, how does that happen if you haven't got any skills left, So first of all, having that general practice to be linked with and the knowledge and confidence that that's where I wanted to end up as a GP. So I had a goal to work towards. The goal was not to be a doctor again. The goal was to be a GP at Tumby Bay in our hometown. So that kind of made it easier to sort of know where I'm going, So things like RDWA, the Rural Doctors Work Agency, so their brief is to really promote and keep doctors rurally. And so they were very helpful to be able to get me back into some courses and lots of support. And then also the RSUGP, who I would eventually become a GP with, they also had advice and a support worker that they put with me to sort of navigate how to get back onto a re-entry plan with AHPRA. And then, the medical superintendent in the area, so her connections. And there was also word of mouth. So people would heard about, so-and-so is going to be trying to do this and just senior consultants. And, obviously my peers from uni are now consultants. And one in particular was working at Adelaide Hospital, Royal Adelaide. And so she put the feelers out and And so there was more offers to say, oh, well, we'll take you on and all that sort of thing. Anyway, in the end, it was lots of organisational help, and I was able to retrain like an intern, but an RMO supervised year for a year in Whyalla, which is about 2 hours up the road. So I lived there during the week and came home on weekends. My husband obviously dropped back from his teaching, took a year off at that stage, and then was able to go back part-time as the youngest one went to school. And you just got to appreciate that the oldest daughters were now quite capable of looking after the younger ones, and they were already independent and all that. So there was lots of help all across, from family to locals to the organisational and all the way. So, yeah. Didn't do it on my own whatsoever.
Amazing. And yeah, it sounds like it was really the right time across the board.
Yeah. And also the thing with rural medicine, there's such a need for more rural doctors. So that was also already the case then, obviously. But there was starting to get some new doors open to be a bit more flexible. And so this training position at Whyalla, they just started up. I was just there at the right time.
Yep, timing.
So they weren't like a regular position that you could just get it quietly as it was setting up, so through connections. So that happened.
Yeah.
So all through that time, I knew I had a lot of help and didn't feel like it was a level playing field, and was like, do I really, am I doing enough? Is this good enough? But then I got to my registrar training, GP registrar training, which started in 2015, just as I turned 50. Just living back at Tumby Bay, and then this was like, okay, this is now a level playing field. I'm doing this as like every other registrar. I have to pass these same exams. And Judith was my supervisor during that time for the first year. And Dr. Sarah George, who was my co-owner with Tumby Bay practice in the later years, and she was my supervisor for the second year. And she had just finished her registrar training, so she was very new at it, but very passionate and very good at it to be able to pass on her knowledge of just gone through it herself. Yeah.
What a story. Wow. And so today you're a GP and a partner at Tumby Bay Medical Practice. It's all kind of come full circle.
So full circle that we're at the next level, that I've now passed on my ownership to a younger doctor who's establishing himself in our community. So it seemed right to pass it on. So I enjoyed my time as an owner, and I'm certainly so very much involved, and I'm not giving away the work, but I just felt like it was the right time to do that. So that's just happened in the last few weeks. So yes.
Do you think that this whole experience would have been possible in a metro environment, or do you kind of credit the rural system for opening up these doors for you?
Most definitely. And I think there is a bit of that timing factor, that it's where there's such a need for it, so it's looking at more flexible ways of doing things, but also just that connection that people know of you. You're just not a number or a name on a piece of paper. It's, that's that lady who's trying to get back into after being at it for so long, and da-da-da. So I think that rural connections really do help, So, yeah, I think in the right time, the right place, with the right frame of mind, it all came together. And like I said, you couldn't just force your way to say, I'll do this. You needed lots of help, and was offered lots of help right from within our practice with Dr. Sarah and the local practice manager and everybody in the practice there to help, and then beyond to our community. You'd have to appreciate, for our community, it was quite an interesting thing for them to go through, because some of them didn't even know I had done any medical degree.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm sitting in their general practice, sitting in with Judith and sort of observing what's going on. It's like, what are you doing? Don't you normally work in the school canteen or coach the kids? And and then I went away for 2 years to Whyalla and to Adelaide for a little bit, just to get that retraining. And they thought I had just, fast-tracked my medical degree in 2 years. So I had to set them straight. No, I do have a background. I'm just bringing it to the fore of my brain.
Yeah. But also, as much as the rural community supported you and it was the right environment, I think so much has to be said for your drive, your determination, your want to succeed. You've got an incredible sense of passion.
I think it's not always a good thing, a bit too competitive at times. So I certainly felt like if I'm going to do this, I need to do it well. And I did say that, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this part-time. This needs to be full-time because I've got so much to catch up on and so much to learn. And my family really allowed that to happen. So that unconditional support from family, whether they liked it or not.
Dr. Emmy Hennell, a rural GP based in Tumby Bay, South Australia. This is Destination Medicine. Thanks for listening. Regional training hubs are supported by funding from the Australian Government under the Rural Health Multidisciplinary Training Program.